is Thursday, and we have finally made it. It is time for another episode of Rooted, and today's segment, well, it's dedicated to the fellas. Here's the deal. You guys know I'm very transparent, and after my series with the ladies and their hair stories, I had quite a few people reach out to me asking me, well, hey, what about the men? You're right. I hear you, Mark. What about the men, right? Like this comment from Wanda Holmes on Facebook asking, will your Rooted series include African-American men and their hairstyles? I even got this comment from Eric Toomer writing, Rooted is good if you're a black woman, but it excludes us black men. Now hold on, Eric. You got to give us some time. We just needed time to get to this point. Men can also face inequities in the workplace as well. And for that reason, we are continuing our conversation on black hair discrimination. It's a topic that has been at the forefront of one Dart police officer's life story for the last couple of years after he was told his hairstyle was unprofessional.
You guys know my character, you know my heart. I felt that they shouldn't judge me based upon my appearance.
His dream was to protect and serve, a dream eventually put on hold.
To say that a black police officer with cornrows is unprofessional, what does that say about you and the way you view black people that wear cornrows? The conversation is needed, but it's hard to have those conversations because to have those conversations, we have to admit that we have a problem.
That problem for Officer Dakari Davis started 6 years after he joined the law enforcement community while he was working as a Dart police officer in 2019.
I was upset, confused.
Davis says he never thought his appearance, specifically the way he wears his hair in this braided hairstyle, would interfere with his ability to do his job.
There was a particular lieutenant who disagreed with that, and he felt that it was unprofessional for male police officers to wear cornrows. And so he took it upon himself to contact the chief of police and eventually filed a formal complaint against my hairstyle.
Dart won't comment directly on this personnel matter, but documents obtained by WFAA show Davis was ordered not to wear the hairstyle while in full uniform. Months later, Davis wore the hairstyle again during an awards ceremony. His actions sparked an internal affairs investigation in November. The findings of that report referred to his braided or cornrows hairstyle as, quote, unprofessional and unapproved.
I actually decided to cut my hair out of fear of retaliation. And I said, you know what? I have a son, I have a family, I have to provide for them. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to cut my hair.
The complaint against Davis lists 5 allegations, including insubordination for disobeying a direct order from a supervisor and violation of the police department's dress code policy, all of which ultimately led to Davis being placed on paid administrative leave, a recommendation for termination, and a letter of reprimand.
I actually had a lot of support. My wife, my family, my friends, a couple co-workers.
Why are you having an issue with his hair?
Davis eventually reached out to Dallas County Commissioner John Wiley Price, who interceded on his behalf.
Has he been performing? And the only issue, you see, is as he's transitioning with his hair. That's unacceptable. And so they basically told me, said to cool my jets, and they'd handle it.
And they did. 7 months later, the letter of reprimand was rescinded in September of 2020 with this notice from Dart's COO, Carol Wise. Davis was returned back to his full assignment as a motorcycle officer without restrictions. Now Dart is taking another look at some of the same policies that led to this entire ordeal.
We are currently under a complete review of our appearance policy. And as you can imagine, as times change, people have different desires, different looks. We understand that as you want to be able to, of course, work your job, but also you want to be able to have a little bit of yourself to be able to present yourself in a particular way.
Even as those changes are being discussed, Davis says it's important to recognize the underlying bias regarding hair in the workplace.
If you know me and I wear this uniform and I stand right beside you and do this job every day just like you, and you view me in that manner, what does that say about how you view someone that doesn't wear the uniform?
Okay, so y'all just heard that clip right there, and shout out to Phil on the African Diaspora channel, because this is actually how I found out about the story. And it's interesting that I'm bringing this story to you right off of the cusp of another video that Lisa recently did on her channel about a black high school student who I believe is a volleyball player. Was she a volleyball player or a basketball player? I can't remember what sport she played, where they had a problem with her braids, how she had her braids in the hair, and her braids were neat. Now, these are braids that, of course, were sewn, like, how women and girls get the braids sewn into their hair and everything like that. And it was, nice and neat. And they had a problem with that. And, they reprimanded her right in the middle of the game. No, it was softball. It was softball. It was in the middle of the game about her hair. Now, ironically, I think the team was winning. So what are they trying to say? That her hair gave her magical powers and strength that helped the team win. And I bet the team still won. But what was upsetting was that she ended up cutting the braids out of her hair in order to continue playing, which leads into what this guy right here was talking about, and him having, he ended up cutting his hair. Now, this was a while ago. He has since then grown his hair back out again, and he has grown it because the interview that you just heard from was from a couple weeks ago. Like, this story got posted on May 6th, so it's like about 2 weeks old. So he has since then grown his hair out, back out again, and braided it back up. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Like I told you, they have a problem with the whole package of the whole black aesthetic, from the head down to the toe, to the toenail, to the nail bed, whatever you want to call it. When it comes to our appearance, I have done so many hair discriminatory videos on my channel. It's not even funny that this happened. That's why I was so kind of upset that that you don't see a lot of black women continuing to do the natural hair videos on YouTube. I remember at one point it was a whole sector dedicated to just that was going on for a while, and then all of a sudden it just kind of stopped. I don't know why it did, but they need to find a way to bring it back, unless it's back, and I don't know. But I remember at one time it was just flourishing. Had a lot of black people feeling good about themselves when it came to how they maintained and did their hair. But they actually sent this man a letter of reprimand over his hair. Mind you, he performed well at his job. He did good. He had great reviews. He never had a smudge on his record, but the only smudge he has is because of something that naturally grows out of his head. They have such a problem with that, and it's so crazy. Every time there's a dress code policy, whether it's in the workplace or in school, and it comes down to the hair, it usually always somehow affects black people, especially when it comes to that hair. Every single time. Oh, you can't wear it like this. You can't wear it in braids. You can't wear it in a fro. It has to be at this length. Literally. Meanwhile, I have seen PC people come out looking like they just woke up out the bed and come to work or go to school, and the hair's all over the place, and that's acceptable. It's because they cannot wear their hair in a style that we can. And they're so upset about that. And until they find a way to do it for themselves, it's going to be completely unacceptable for us to do it there. I guess I would be that insubordinate person. I don't care. It really is what it is. Like, what does my hair and how it looks have anything to do with my performance of whatever it is that I'm doing? It has nothing to do with that. This is why a lot of people, truth be told, go into business for themselves, so they don't have to deal with a lot of discriminatory practices such as hair care. Like, that should be on the bottom of the totem pole. And the fact of the matter is, his hair is neat. It's not all over the place. It's done. Like, this is a picture right here with his hair braided. It's not a recent picture of him. It's probably a couple months old, maybe. Because when I was looking at the clip that you were playing, he had his hair braided in a different style, and he had like a beard. So they're making a big deal out of nothing, and they literally had an internal affairs investigation brought up on this guy over his hair. They went that deep. It's amazing. They will bring up a whole internal affairs or internal investigation over a black man or a black woman in some instances in their hair, but they can't bring up some kind of thorough truth to power investigation when black people killed unarmed by those in their departments. Then they have to do it. Then they have to do a study or whatever it is to try to get them off, whatever the case may be. But they were so gung-ho about this man and his hair that they almost fired him. They almost fired him. They said was down with for insubordination. They reprimanded him. They said that he almost got terminated. And the only reason he said he cut his hair is because he had to think about his family. He has a wife and a child that he had to provide for. Something tells me if it wasn't for those two factors, he probably would have left. But him having a family is what kept him there. And that's why a lot of people nowadays are going into business for themselves, more so on the digital entrepreneurship side, so they don't have to deal with this foolishness. And now how ironic that if you heard towards the end of the video that now they're looking over and reviewing their dress code policy, which includes the hair. Now they want to look into it. And the only reason they're looking into it is because the story ended up going somewhat viral. It made it to the news. So now they want to look into it. Had this story not gained any legs, they would have continued to reprimand this man. And we would have never known the story. And some people still don't know about the story. Some people live in this area of Texas and don't even know about this story. I wouldn't have known about it had I not saw Phil talk about it on his channel. But yeah, like they literally have it's an envy that they have when it comes to us and how we choose to wear our hair. We cannot help that our hair grows the way that it does. That's just the way it is. That's just how it always has been and always will be. And I would tell them to take it or leave it, but they have no other choice but to deal with it because that's just how it is. And that's exactly how, and I've said it before, you ingrain self-hate into people when it comes to hair. You tell them that it doesn't look good, it looks unkept, it looks this, it looks that. And then what happens is it starts to trickle down to other people who look just like you and tell you the same exact thing. I've seen it before. It's unfortunate still. But this right here also shows you that, yes, men go through the same hair discriminatory practices that women and girls do. Boys the same way. And the thing is, whenever they show the imagery of how their hair looks, it's like it's neat. It's well kept. It's not all over the place. They make it seem like they just came out of the pool and their hair frizzed up while it's trying to dry. Like they make a big deal out of nothing. But that's how you maintain power, is to make and continue to make a big deal out of nothing. Amongst other things, this right here is a non-factor. As long as he's performing his job the way that it should be performed, there should be no issue. But they make it, this is the legit detailing of making a mountain out of a molehill. You heard that terminology before. Taking something so minuscule and so small and turning it into something so huge that they try to make it seem like this man did something extremely off within his outside of his performing of this job while on the job. Meanwhile, I just did a story about a man who was a cop in New Jersey, 19 years on the force, who had a whole meth lab in his home. Investigate that. Investigate these cops out here who are doing what Dirty Dick Danny was doing, because I'm sure there's a lot of more Dirty Dick Dannys out there. Investigate them. Investigate the cops that plant drugs on other people unarmed. Investigate those who kill unarmed black people. Oh no, you can't investigate all of that, but you can find a way to open up an internal affairs investigation over a black man and how he chooses to wear his hair while on the job. Like, that's the biggest distraction. Like, apparently us wearing our hair in a certain way is somehow going to end the world. Sound the alarm. Code red. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I'll talk to you in the next one.